Hello everybody, I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. I'm sorry about the video on my car, but I really want to give you some Palantir content today. There's so much to talk about as Palantir has been front and center in the news. I'm waiting for a potential tenant for one of my real estate properties. If you guys don't know, I do have a real estate channel. I'm going to leave a link to it down below. Click on it. I teach you guys everything about Section 8 rentals. I'm a Section 8 landlord. Palantir has had an absolutely massive month. Palantir is up 30+% for the last month. 30+% for the last month. Now, a lot of people are going to say, Adam, the entire market is up. I make videos and people are like, Adam, the whole market is up. Palantir, blah, 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 blah. Palantir trades at something called a beta. A beta means that you don't track the market one-to-one. If the market goes down, Palantir will go down more. But if the market goes up, Palantir will go up more. It's called trading at a beta. And the market, the QQQ right now is up 15% for the last month, while Palantir is more than double the market. So Palantir most certainly is outperforming the market. It is what it is. And I, for one, am all for it. Palantir is trading over $8. That's really nice. I'm welcomed. And it actually lost a lot on Friday. The whole market started going down. Again, the market goes down, Palantir goes down even more. So the good thing about Palantir right now is that Dr. Alex Karp is definitely working on his image. He's doing so many different interviews. I love it. I freaking love it. In one of his last interviews, he literally openly admitted that, hey, I am working with a coach. I am working with a public speaker, public speaking coach. And it's obviously working. You see it. You see it's working. So I like the fact that he's putting the time and effort into actually changing his image to make himself more appealing. Besides for that, he had some amazing interviews as of late. Like for the last 3 months since the last earnings, it seems like it's like interview, contract, talking. And besides for his interviews, Palantir is actually putting up a shit ton of advertisement, marketing, public relations. Besides for Dr. Alex Karp, you also have Shyam Sankar, who's going on and talking to the public. It's fantastic. Really, it is honestly something to behold. Everything seems like it's changing, and it's coming, perfect timing for the next earnings. How we're going to do in the next earnings, we'll talk about that in just a moment. What did we just do? An increased contract with Sampo. Sampo is Palantir's partner in Japan. So they literally have Palantir Japan KK, and Sampo and Palantir are 50-50. Sampo is the largest insurance agency in all of Japan, and they do so many more things than just insurance agencies. They're also in healthcare and a bunch of other things. So this is a huge partnership. And by partnering with Sampo, they opened up the entire Japan to work with huge mega corporations as well as government. Japanese people, Japanese business, it's very closed. It's a closed community. Very hard to get in there. So by partnering with Sampo, this is huge. Sampo actually initially invested in Palantir. They gave them a $500 million investment into Palantir in 2009. Then they did a $20+ million contract. They just extended that to a $50 million 5-year contract. I love it. I like to see this. Besides for that, Palantir did sign up a couple of smaller contracts recently. They have a contract for $8 million that they signed up with some Australian company. Small contract with the NIH, things like that. And one thing in the last interviews that Dr. Alex Karp is talking about, he literally went from, hey, Europe is very difficult, to he went to, we might help Ukraine, to, hey, almost all of Ukrainian targeting in the Ukrainian-Russian war right now is being done by Palantir. One of the reasons he's saying this is this. Right now, the current United States budget for military is $800+ billion. By 2026, according to Bank of America, that 800-something billion is going to be $1 trillion. Currently, he says, this is Dr. Alex Karp, he was saying that 1% goes to software. 1% of the total budget goes to software. He wants to see it to go to 5%. So a lot of people are like, hey, you can only grow government so much. At the end of the day, there's only a limited amount of resources government can give you. That is kind of true, but kind of untrue. Why? The limited amount of resources is the 800 billion, 1 trillion, whatever. They have a budget. But those limited amount of resources can be allocated in many different ways. So if the government spending right now is 1% for software, and you can get that not even to 5%, let's say 2.5%, half of where Alex Karp wants it to be. That is a shit ton of extra money. A shit ton of extra money coming into software, and Palantir is going to get a lion's share of it. Palantir is not the only software company working with the United States military, but they are the biggest company working with the United States military when it comes to software. Everybody is understanding right now that Palantir is making the difference with Ukraine. Now, I'm not going to say one side or another. I'm not going to use propaganda because both sides have propaganda. Who's winning, Russia or Ukraine? At the end of the day, I can say one thing. Ukraine is still standing. And if Ukraine is still standing, whatever you want to say, they lasted 1 year longer than they were expected to last. Remember in the beginning, they were supposed to get marched on. They were supposed to take the Kiev, the Ukrainian capital, in 3 days. Russia was supposed to take it, just like they did with Crimea. Never happened. It's been 1 year right now. They're still fighting. Both sides are fighting. Matter of fact, it probably doesn't hurt that the winter was not as vicious as everyone thought it was going to be. And that helps not only, Ukraine, but it's also helping Europe because of the gas prices and the natural gas and all of these elements that Russia provided Europe. Well, Europe basically told Russia, go F yourself, and it kind of is working out for them, and they survived over winter. And now when winter's over, it's kind of going to be a lot easier for them and more difficult for Russia. So it kind of backfired what's happening with Russia. It doesn't make a difference. It's not a Russia-Ukraine video. But now it went from, hey, we did this, to now we're openly there making the big difference. And the interesting thing is what he said is, he says, we do things so much different. They literally charged Ukraine nothing. They came in there, no signed contracts. And Shyam Sankar said this before, I believe, and Dr. Alex Karp said this. At the time, they had no money. They just signed them up. Hey, let's go. And how did Palantir get in the door? They were recommended by all of the highest level agencies. All the highest level military agencies. Ukraine asked them, who would we use? And they all said Palantir. And then Palantir came in, and Ukraine is probably like, we got no money, but we need your help. And Palantir is like, good, we got you. Very similar to what they do with literally every corporation and every government that they work with. They start super small, and then they expand. So what do you think is going to happen to Ukraine after they win this, or God willing, they win this? Because at the end of the day, Ukraine winning this is good for us Palantir shareholders, and it's good for America and American allies. That's the end of the day, at the end of the story. Whether you want one side or another, it is definitely better for the United States if Ukraine wins than if Ukraine loses. That's a fact. We're going to prosper from that. But that's not what the point of this video is going to be. What do you think is going to happen to Palantir? Not only is Palantir helping the Ukrainian government, and I don't know if anybody here is from the Eastern European region, but the government has a lot of say with a lot of things over there. And there's a lot of things that happen under the table, not in the open. If Ukraine wins this, there's going to be a huge, huge, huge rebuilding of Ukraine. Huge undertaking. The whole effing country is going to be rebuilt. What do you think is going to rebuild it? What companies are going to be rebuilding it? Besides for the hardware companies, there's going to be a huge logistics task to rebuild Ukraine. How to allocate, where money goes, where resources goes, where timing goes, where real-time data is going to be processed. Palantir is going to be everywhere. Besides for Palantir actually working with the Ukrainian government, Palantir is going to be working with the companies that are going into Ukraine to rebuild Ukraine. That's where I see the next frontier is. This is going to be a huge market for Palantir, right? So their main market is the United States. Their second main market is the UK. I'm not sure who their third market is, but I'm assuming that the whole Europe besides outside of UK. I know Israel is a big market for them. Well, now Ukraine is going to be a massive, massive market for Palantir. If Ukraine wins, they need to rebuild. If they rebuild, they will be using Palantir. If Russia happens to win, they're not going to be rebuilding. They're not going to be using Palantir. It's going to be a totally different story. So we're going to assume and hope and pray that Ukraine wins. If for no other reasons, and there are other reasons, for your pocket. Because Ukraine winning is going to be very good for Palantir shareholders, as Palantir helped Ukraine win, and they didn't charge them nothing in the beginning. I don't know what the deal is right now, if they're getting paid or not, but I know that they really are helping them. So if Ukraine is going to rebuild, when Ukraine is going to rebuild, this is going to help Palantir immensely. And this is going to lead to more help with Europe. Now, I'm not sure what's happening in Europe, but I could definitely see that Palantir possibly use their software to try to help Europe with what's happening now with the distribution of all of these natural resources, or lack thereof of natural resources from Russia. Now there's so many other European nations that have to produce and allocate to Ukraine, or allocate to the rest of Europe. And there's a logistical freaking nightmare to do this. And maybe not, Palantir was part of this logistical nightmare that made this logistical nightmare into something that was quite possible. Palantir is growing. I don't know what's going to happen in the next earnings. It seems like Dr. Alex Karp is very positive with the next earnings. He says commercial is growing at an all-time high in the United States. I don't know what the actual number is going to be, but I do have an opinion about what's going to happen in quarter 3 and 4 of this year. I believe quarter 3 and quarter 4, and I've been saying this for a while, I'm not jumping on the bandwagon. You can check all my last videos. I even said this to Chris Patel. We have a bet. He got out of Snowflake, by the way, but the bet is still on. It's for $2,000. I would love to make it $2,500, but he didn't respond yet. Who's going to win, Snowflake or Palantir? I believe quarter 3 and quarter 4 are going to be fantastic quarters for Palantir, where we're actually going to beat expectations. And if this follows the roadmap of the Federal Reserve, where they're going to not only stop raising interest rates, but start reducing interest rates towards the end of the year, this is going to coincide completely with Palantir earnings at the end of the year. That should be expectation beats. And if that happens, Palantir to the freaking moon. Thank you. Watch this video down below. You guys are not going to be disappointed if you like this type of content, and have a great day.